Yep, the recording is on. And we have some people in, and
Please go on. I can't hear you. So, all the
you
best,
can't.
everyone.
Bye bye, Prasan. See you later. Still waiting for some, or give it a few more minutes. It was a bit late to announce this session of today, so it's understandable that people can't just switch around or change around their plans and the calendar. But we will record this, so well, we are already recording since Prasan is out walking, so he put me in charge. So we're still going to blame him if something goes wrong. So we have 4, and yeah, I'll give it 2 more minutes, I guess, before we begin, and then I'll share my screen as well. Hello, everyone that are signing in. Not sure if any of the mentors are showing up today, because it's always Prasan that does the invite, so he has the calendar information. I actually haven't checked if I can see. Yeah, we can see there are 7 people who have said yes. And nobody said no, but a lot of people haven't answered. And again, sorry about the bit late invite, but that's the problem when Prasan is busy in Dubai working, and I've been in San Diego for the conference, and then we talked about this project, and he just shared shared the information about the project on Slack, but I thought that I wanted to talk a bit about it before. So so you know what the idea of this this project is, and I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully you've seen, or if you have looked at it, you see that there's an exam in Visual Analytics, Spring 2026. And that might be a bit confusing because you're not partaking in this particular class. So we are, like we always do, trying to steal like an artist, or we don't want to redo too many things or invent new stuff. So I'm doing a lecture at a university, which is called Visual Analytics. And my students have this particular exam, which I've made for them. And then we thought that, well, this we can still reuse. This is world development indicator data that is that you can find online at the World Data Bank. There is a lot of different type of visualizations already on public and stuff like that. But of course, when we're doing an exam, or even when we do want to do this project in the Sandbox program, we would like you to not just go and find something. I wouldn't expect you to do that anyways. Just find something and repost it as your own project. But I know that students would do that. They would just find something and then maybe add some different names on it or something, and then submit it as an exam. And of course, I don't have full control of everything that's on the 18 million different type of dashboards on Tableau Public. So what I've done with the data, I'm going to open up and share the data and look at it as well, so you can have a look and you can ask your questions. So I've done something with the data, but also I've done something with that. It's not just the data, do whatever you want kind of thing. We have created this as, I'm just going to zoom in a bit. We created this as you being part of a Nordic NGO as a data analyst. So that's the business case or the use case in here. And that's also to limit, because I know that there's not that many people who have done some dashboards on this data for the Nordic countries. There's a lot for like every country in the data set, but it's like 198 countries since 1960 till today, and then that's way too much information anyways. difficult to find any insight or make something interesting out of this. So there's World Bank indicators for 5 countries, which has data from 2000 till today. This organization, which doesn't exist, but that we have invented, Nordic Digital Development Observatory, are providing data-driven insights to help governments and international partners understand trends in digital access, education, and sustainable development, for example. So the idea here for the project is that you should create an interactive dashboard. It could be one or multiple. It could be story mode if you would like to use that. That's totally up to you. You have free range on doing what you want in there. But the idea that this dashboard or the story that you're doing will help your colleagues, partners, and stakeholders to analyze how these countries perform, across economic, social, and digital development. Going to gain insight, seeing if there's any patterns or relationship between the available measures. I'll show you soon the data as well. There's way too many measures to show all of them. So the idea is that you should pick relevant indicators that you are interested in or you would like to do some analysis on. And then we're going to interpret, meaning provide some evidence-based interpretation of these patterns and relationship in the data, and then discuss what these might imply for digital development priorities. So this dashboard should be a decision support tool. You should connect to the data, build different type of visualizations, get insight, and combine these into, as I said, dashboard or story or dashboards. That's up to you as well. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the phrase exploratory versus explanatory dashboards, but exploratory dashboard is something that you build where the consumer will then, or the user or reader will explore. They will select which countries or periods or measures and then try to find their own insights, versus creating an explanatory where you basically build a story for them, or you have focused on specific countries, specific measures, specific time periods, for example. Some examples to consider. This is stuff that you know already, right? You can use a map, you can create scatter plots, bars, lines, areas. This is, again, a bit simplistic or dumbed down for the students because they are not very experienced in neither Tableau or data storytelling. And here are some questions that you can answer, as this is more like also a suggestion of how do environmental indicators relate to economic growth, or how are they converging or diverging over time. So the submission will be, well, not named your group number because you don't have a group number. Basically, you publish it to your Tableau public profile, and then you share it with us as well. And of course, use your mentors along the way to get input and help and feedback like you already do. There's also in here, submit the written report as a PDF. You don't have to do that. What we're rather thinking in this setting, because this is something that probably will be more relevant for you also in the future. Well, of course, you will be writing reports as well, but we would rather make this instead of a formal report that is written, you can then create a 5-minute-ish video where you explain your insights, meaning the same thing that you can see in here, where you communicate what is going on in here. So basically, you share your screen and yourself if you want to. You don't have to have your web camera on, but that's always nice. So just generate a Google Meet meeting with yourself, share your screen, record a presentation of the insights that you have done or found in your dashboard. So basically explaining your dashboard. You can have a look at part B as well, but this, again, we're a bit, as I said, a bit lazy, so we haven't removed or done anything. But in the class I'm teaching, of course, they have workbooks or books that they're looking at, so they're learning about design principles and practices. and visual best practices, pre-attentive attributes, and stuff like that. So part B, you can talk and discuss a bit about it, but it's more important with part A. Things to include. Here you see some. Again, this would have been more. Some of these are more relevant for the written report, especially if you would be doing any sketching to showcase your ideas. But and also this 5 layers of data visualization from Andy Kirk. So just use your brain in the way that when you look at a couple of these things, especially when it comes to the report, you're not going to do a written report, you're going to do a recorded video. So some of these are obvious things that you can leave out. So the report should not be 6 to 10 pages. It should be 5 to something minutes. It's up to you, but don't use half an hour. 5 to 10 minutes, I think, should be enough. Then you don't have to think about the references. Here's some explanation about the data set got from the World Bank Group. We have, we're going to look at those measures. It's for the 5 Nordic countries, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden from 2001 till 2025. There might be some nulls, so you need to figure out, should I filter away some years? Should I get rid of some measures and so on? But they're pretty nice cleaned up. There is 2 sheets in that Excel file that that was uploaded by Prasan. I'm just going to open up in Excel as well because I do have it in here. We have the VWI data. So the columns over here, you see that there's a lot of blanks in here, but it looks a bit nicer when we get it inside of Tableau. And you see there's a whole bunch of these and a lot of data. But what does, for example, if I scroll up again, population female, well, that's, I guess, quite obvious. But if you would like to know more about these measures, I have this metadata. So not used for, you don't have to use that in the analysis. It's more for you to understand. So here's the same indicators. So if we scroll down to, for example, population female, what is that? Well, it's the female population. It's based on the de facto definition of, and so on. So we have an explanation. We have where the data comes from. We have, I can't remember the title in here. So the topic, the unit of measure, how is it recorded? So most of these are annually. We have well, this is for the whole data set. It's some data are from the 60s, so some are newer, but we have already filtered this when you got it in. And then what type of aggregation method is in here. So this is more for you to understand the concepts of all of these measures if they are a bit vague. Sorry. And then you're not going to be graded for A to F on this, but you will get feedback. That's the purpose of this project. So this is what, of course, you can look at it and see how would I grade this if this would be an exam paper. So of course you can have a look at this and see, have I done all of this? These, like you can tick them off, and then we'll see when we do that feedback. So see, when I've connected to this, I'm not going to be using the metadata. This is more for you to understand the content. And then I have the WDI data, which has 76 fields and 9,000 rows. So if we have a look at it, it's a bit boring when it comes to dimensions, as you can see, because we have country code, country name, and the countries are the Nordic countries. And we have, well, series code. This is just the names of the measure, or the code of the measures. And then, of course, we have the data from 2001 till 2025. And then we have all of these measures, quite a lot of them, as you can see. So first thing I often do when I want to check out some data is to click on measure names and just swap the columns and rows. And you see it doesn't even show all of them. So I'm going to get rid of this filter. So here we see all of the measures and then the values over here. Of course, now it's aggregated for all countries and all years. So if I put in years, for example, you see that well, net national income, we have data for all years. And for most of them, we do have data. 2025, there is data for a couple of measures. So maybe we can filter away or ignore 2025. You also see that some measures, well, all of these have data. If I scroll up a bit, educational attainment, for example, master, bachelor's, doctoral, that didn't start until 2012. So when you do this kind of a pre-check, you've probably done this before. You can even, if you want to, feel free to open this in prep and do something about the data, or do whatever magic you want. That's all up to you. But this is a nice way of just checking that. Well, if I'm going to validate and compare this, I don't need the data from 2011 and before. So most of these, as you can see, have data for all periods, but they don't necessarily have it for all countries either. So that's, again, something that you need to check. For example, we are missing some arms import in Iceland. Could also be that, well, Iceland, nobody wants to invade them. They feel very safe over there, or, well, they only imported something in 2011. But that also tells you a story, right? If there is data for all year, or none of the years except 1 or 2, it means something. So you should better check this out as well. Yeah, so scrolling down here, this was the educational data. See, that doesn't start from 2012 and not necessarily for all countries as well. But for the rest of them, there is data across. It looks pretty slim when you just look at it into Excel like this, right? There's no data at all, but it is data when you look at it like this, or when it's aggregated a bit better. And then it's important for you to figure out, especially when you look at these numbers, some of these are in percentage, right? So if they are in percentage, you should make sure that you treat the data correctly. Don't summarize data like this, because it says fuel exports is 94% for all countries in 2008. And if I also take away years, then suddenly you will get 2044. So maybe the fuel export, if you're looking at that and not looking at countries or specific years, just going to see if we can find it down here, because there's so many of them. Or we can do, no, we can't do it this way, of course. Fuel, there's fuel somewhere down here. There you go, fuel export. Maybe we should look at this as an average instead. So the average fuel export for all countries and all years is 17%. That tells one story. But if we then are looking at also the years and country names, then the fuel export tells you a different story, right? So it's up to you to decide which of these do you think are interesting, is there a connection between educational attainment and electric production, or arms import or export, fertility rate, broadband subscriptions, and so on. So you see there's a whole bunch of measures in here that you're free to choose which one to use, which one to limit out, which one you build in. Maybe you have one dashboard for education, one for life expectancy, and so on. It's totally up to you. And feel free, of course. You know how to handle data. You probably also know where to find data. So if you want, you can add additional data in here into the data set. So it's a bit free in the sense that you can decide what to do in here. But these are the countries, the Nordic countries. So for none of you, because none of you are from the Nordic countries, then you will learn something about the Nordic countries as well. That hopefully could be interesting for you. So that was the big introduction in here. And since we are looking at the map and we don't have anything from the Baltic countries or these From UK, you could go into map, go to background layers, and just wash out the rest of. So you only look at the countries that are in the data set. That's a neat little map trick. So now I'm opening it up to you. If you have any questions, any comments, does it look okay? Does it look challenging? We haven't put a due date on it yet because me and Prasan haven't discussed this yet, but I think that you should have at least a couple of weeks on this so that you have time also to meet up your mentor and discuss it. But yeah, any questions?
Not for now. We just had a question about the timeline, but you just mentioned there's no due date. So
Yeah, there will be a due date, but we haven't decided it yet. But I think, as I said, I think we need to give you some time to get known with the data, try to look into it. You don't meet your mentors every day, so you should have time to meet with your mentors as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were Tomiwa, you had a question?
Okay, yes. Thank you so much for the presentation and the task in general. Not to cheat here, but if you were in our shoes, what steps would you take towards approaching this project? I think you skimmed through the instructions, and one of the things I noticed was you requested for 4 to 8 was it visuals or charts, and
Yeah.
in explaining it, it felt a bit overwhelming seeing all those different key metrics. So, how exactly would you approach something like this from your years of experience?
Yeah, I know what I would have done today that I wouldn't have done 3 or 5 years ago. That is to put the data and the task and everything into AI and ask, can you give me some recommendations, right? Everybody will do that. And I've done that with some of these exams as well, because I know that especially at least the younger generations, the students, that's the first thing they do anyways. So I've given them like an example of, here is what I asked about this data, and this is a chart you can do for looking at data over time. This is some chart or analysis you can do with a scatter plot. So since you need to build a dashboard with at least 3 different chart types, and then you can have multiple dashboards. And as you say, it's a bit overwhelming with all of these measures in here. I would do what I did in here first, just have a look at the data, try to understand what does it mean with the different measures. If there's something that, if you're interested in the environmental questions, then I would look at everything that has to do with, for example, electricity production, carbon dioxide emission, and stuff that is related to that, and see if you can go to Tableau Public. Is there somebody have done any interesting analysis of this? And okay, they've done that, and they've used this type of charts and created this type of dashboard. You can download those, of course, re-engineer them, and figure out how they do it. So that's an extra learning point. And as I said, put it into ChatGPT and get some ideas. You know as well as me that ChatGPT and Claude, they're hallucinating a lot, and you get all kinds of weird stuff. In Claude, you get nice dashboards and everything, but it's not visual best practice, and it doesn't necessarily use the correct chart for the correct type of analysis. But that's at least a starting point. I would suggest to do.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
There was a question. Yeah, the ultimate purpose of the analysis. This is again going a bit back to this one, because I could just giving you the data and say, good luck, build something, right? But I think that for this group, I think that would work pretty well. But again, when we do this for students that are from 18, 18 to 22-year old, they like to have a business case or some guidance. So that's why we have this case of that. Since you're working now for an NGO as a data analyst, and the task is these. You try to analyze the data. You have a limitation in countries and also in years, because previously I also created similar type of projects where you have all the same amount of measures, but you have from 1960 till today, and you have the whole world. And then when you have the whole world, people just put everything onto a big map, and you don't really get any insights. And it's too overwhelming anyways. So I always encourage people to, if they have that many data, focus on a region or compare a couple of countries or some regions to each other, for example. Or you can't do that with this particular data, but if you have the world data, then you can create continents. So you can compare the average of one continent with another, for example. So that's the purpose of this data. I'm just going to check your question again, because that's the analysis. The purpose of the project itself is to have you do something else than what like we've done before, where you have like a homework or you do Makeover Monday, which is really specific. So this is, you have a data set, you have a business case or a use case, and it's up to you to either use prep to do something with the data before you pull it into Tableau. You don't need to in this case because everything is pivoted and organized. But you can do that. You can even go to the World Data Bank and find more measures or other measures, or find other data that could add to your analysis in here. And thank you for the link. This is, of course, what I would have done as well. Search for World Development Indicators. And you see that there's a lot of stuff that people have done in here. You can even go to Mr. Kriebel. He's also done something with this, where you're looking at life expectancy versus healthcare expenditure, and it doesn't work. So this could be that it's an old data source or something that he's been using because Tableau Public has some issues with some old data sources. So unfortunately, you can't look at this one, but just try to look at some of these. Some of them can be really bad, meaning that, well, nothing is working for me now, so that this really didn't help. Let me just check whatever else in here. Didn't have WDI. So maybe there's an issue with, I don't know if there's an issue with Public at the moment or if it's just me, but still see if you can find something in here. And I guess all of you know, if you find something, it's very easy to download this workbook to have a look at it, especially if it would load, which it don't, over here, and then download the workbook and have a look at if there's calculations, if there's any specific techniques people have been using to do something exciting with the data as well. But looking at a lot of the stuff that you already have published, I don't think the biggest issue you will have in this project is not necessarily the visual appearance or the visual design of the dashboard. It's more of trying to figure out how to interpret and decide with this data which measures you should use. Don't use all, because that would be too much, I think. Well, depends on how much spare time you have. So you can, of course, do multiple dashboards or do story mode where you focus on different topics as well. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, just wondering, when could we get the recording for the data prep session so that we could just go over it before we get started with this project?
What do you mean by data preps session?
The data prep session that was done a few weeks back.
Yeah, with Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll I'll ping Prasan on this and say that he needs to upload it. I thought that he had done already, but he has been traveling also from India to Dubai. So apparently we have a life outside of the Sandbox project.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll message him and say that he needs to upload that.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm doing that as we speak. Otherwise, I will forget as well because I'm an old man from a couple of weeks ago. So that's sent over there. So for me, it's going to be exciting to see the results that you will be doing or showing us in some weeks when we're getting to when we will give you the deadline. And for me, also, it's going to be nice to compare this with what my students are doing, but they're not doing their exams until they still have 3.5 weeks till they're going to do their exam, and then we can compare to see people who have never used Tableau before they started the class in January, and for you guys who have been using Tableau, well, quite a bit, I think, but also interesting to see the different takes you have on this. It's always fun to give the same data set to X number of people and you get X number of different type of visualizations, which is always cool. Same if some of you have watched the IronVis competition from the Tableau conference. It's now on Salesforce Plus, so you can see the recording as well. But it's 3 people, and they have a completely different take on exactly the same data, making or creating their own amazing visualizations based on the same data. I think that if we go to Tableau Public today, no, it's already, this is Brian Moore. He came, shared second place, the IronVis. This is the winner, Anne Pregler. She made this visualization. It was about some book data in there. So, and they made it in 20 minutes. That's also a huge accomplishment. So I'm not saying that you should do this in 20 minutes. You will have some weeks on it. But have a look at these as well, for not necessarily inspiration for this particular data set, but for your own for your own inspiration. But also please have a look at the Salesforce Plus video of this when we see it on the big screen when they're doing their magic. It's really amazing. The most amazing thing, I actually voted for this. I hope that Brian would win because his presentation, the one that we're looking at in here, is made in one sheet. It's not even a dashboard. It's one sheet that is doing everything that you see in here, which is, it's not very fancy visualizations necessarily. It's rounded bars and some dots, but yeah, one sheet. So if you can do something like this in 20 minutes, then of course he's then probably trained for 100 hours before he did that 20 minutes. But now I'm off track again. Any other questions? See, Prasan is answering me. He will upload the prep session and also today's session and share it with you. So he will do that today. So you should have it by the end of today.
Thank you.
We don't need to use the full hour if you don't have any questions around this. Now you have the data, you have the instructions or the backdrop for the task, and I've shown you a bit about the data in here as well. So just remember to look at what is the measure. Is it in percentages? Is it per 100 people? Is it per something? Should it be summarized, or are you looking at averages so that you're showing the correct amount or correct numbers in your analysis? So I'll do a short kind of summary of what I've said as well. Put that on Slack before the end of this week, so that, well, you have been here, so you listened to me, and the rest of you, or you as rest of you that are not here, you can watch the recording. But it's also nice to have this like summarized or written down, so that you know that you can ignore some of the stuff in that Word document. Okay, then I'll stop share my screen, and guess I can say good luck then with the project. Please reach out to your mentors. So, well, I guess you have scheduled time with them. A couple of you also have now gotten new, since Nick is out. Now you have two you have new mentors. So please schedule a session and get going. So Prasan will also announce or invite you all to more sessions. We have more sessions lined up. We have been on hold now due to the Tableau conference. So there will be new invitations coming. Hopefully not the day before, a bit earlier. So have a nice afternoon, morning, evening, and we'll catch up next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you around.